Hello, everyone. Buenas tardes a todos. We're going to give folks a few minutes before we get going. Vamos a darles todos unos minutos antes de comenzar, pero gracias por estar aquí. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today. Some folks are still joining. Todavía tenemos unas personas que se están agregando, so vamos a darles un momento antes de comenzar. We'll give
Mm.
folks a few seconds before we get going, but thank you for being here. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy.
Ven, abajo, aquí abajo.
Hi, folks. Thank you for being here for today's meeting for the San Diego-Tijuana Air Quality Task Force. We'll get going. We're going to do some quick instructions for interpretation. So, gracias a todos por estar aquí para la reunión del equipo de trabajo de calidad del aire de San Diego-Tijuana. Vamos a darnos instrucciones para el sistema de interpretación en un momento. So, vamos a movernos adelante. Antes de comenzar, voy a compartir las instrucciones primero en español y luego en inglés.
Does
Uh,
not wear something I don't buy.
oh, thank you. I'm going to do the Zoom interpretation instructions first in Spanish and then in English, and then we'll get going with our meeting today. Good. And actually, did it backwards. I'm going to do them in Spanish and then English. Para las personas que nos acompañan hoy a través de su tableta o iPad o de su teléfono inteligente o smartphone, favor de localizar el menú en la forma de tres puntos en la parte inferior de su pantalla. De ahí pueden seleccionar Language Interpretation o interpretación del lenguaje y enseguida pueden seleccionar su idioma, en este caso el español o Spanish. Para las personas que nos acompañan a través de su computadora, pueden localizar el símbolo de interpretación en la forma de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Hagan clic ahí y después elijan su lenguaje en español o Spanish. Ahora voy a dar las instrucciones en inglés. Here are the instructions in English for all those joining us tonight through their tablets or iPads or through their smartphones. Please locate the menu in the form of three dots on your screen. You can click there, then select language interpretation, and then select the language of your choice. In this case, it would be English. If you're joining us through your computer, you can locate the icon in the form of a globe for interpretation at the bottom of your screen. You can click there, then select English as your language of choice. I do want to just reiterate the point that we are going to have presentations both in Spanish and English. So for folks that are monolingual, please make sure that you're selecting an interpretation channel so that you're able to hear the presentation from both teams, I think, for today. So before we get going, I do want to hand it over to Anneli Fernandez Robledo, who is the jefe del Departamento de Calidad del Aire, for some opening remarks, and then as well as Shalom Bodhi Lopez with APCD as well. So, Anneli and then Martin as well, actually.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being available for a second roundtable. So I'm Eli Fernandez. And in this space, I would like to utilize this space to welcome and present our director so we can have an opportunity to meet him, Director Martin Lopez Navarro. Thank you, everybody, for being present. Thank you, Annalie. Good morning, everybody. I'm Martin Lopez Navarro. For me, it's an honor to say hello to everybody, even though it's long distance. from the state of Baja California. In this space, we want to build together with a purpose that goes further than all of institutional establishments, which is the right to be able to breathe clean air. Air doesn't know borders. This is why this is a topic, this is a subject that is going to unite us further than separating us more. Anything that we do is going to have a consequence in our health and our well being in both regions. So that responsibility that's shared, that's why we are working on this task force to improve air quality is not just a goal, it's an investment in life, in thousands of millions of people that live in this area, in this borderline. So this every step that we're taking is a step towards a resilient and a healthier and a promising future. So welcome everybody. I am very excited to be able to share our working space, our experiences, and to find out how we can continue working together as a team between these two countries.
So Shalom, we'll hand it over to you, I think, on behalf of the APCD for some opening remarks as well.
Yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Shalema Budi Lopez. I just wanted to echo Martin's remarks, is that we are united by the air we breathe. And I'm really pleased that our teams, both in the San Diego and Tijuana region, are also united by our goal for cleaner air. I also just want to uplift as well. We have, we come together and we put together a really thoughtful and meaningful list of agenda items today. And we hope that you all will be able to engage with the speakers as well. There will be opportunities for folks to ask questions, and we really encourage that engagement. This is a forum not only to learn, but it's also a forum to help us think about new ways of doing things to improve the air for our shared airshed as well. I also just want to share my appreciation to Aneli and Martin and their team in Baja for the amazing work that they are doing, and also just always being open and willing to have lines of communication and collaboration as well. Their partnership is incredibly important to us, and we really appreciate all the work they're doing, and we look forward to continuing our partnership. At this time, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Christian.
Thank you, Shalom, and thank you, Martin and Ali, for those opening remarks. So we'll do a little bit of an overview of our agenda for today. So we do have three presentations that are going to be happening. At the end of each of those presentations, we'll have an opportunity, I think, if folks have questions, comments, things that we want to share. And then we'll also have a section at the very end of the presentation or the meeting of today for just general public comments and any other feedback that folks want to share. So we have a presentation from APCD from Dr. David Solomon, who's going to be talking on the updates on elevated hydrogen sulfide levels in the border community. Then we'll have a presentation from colleague Adriana, who's going to be presenting on minute 328 and the MOU process as well, and then the minute 333 implementation as well. And then we'll wrap up our presentations with emissions inventory presentation from Anneli and Martin, and then we'll move into roundtables, public comment, and then we'll wrap up today. So with that, a quick just reminder, I think, of our meeting agreements. We want to make sure that, one, I think that we're making sure that folks are using your language of choice. We've shared that we are going to be kind of bouncing between Spanish and English for today's presentations. So please make sure that you have selected the interpretation channel of your language of choice. And then some general agreements. We want to make sure that we're creating space for everyone to contribute. We do have different topics and feedback on these things. So we want to make sure that we're providing that space for everyone. And then we also want to make sure that we're participating and make space for others to participate as well. And then we're only one person speaks at a time. So we are going to be using that raise hand feature or the chat as well to share your feedback or questions. We want to make sure that folks are listening to each other, that we respect others' opinions, knowledge, and perspective. And then kind of lastly, just being conscious of time. Sometimes I might have to move the presentation or our agenda forward just to make sure that we're providing ample time for all the presentations and presenters to go through their information. So as you're providing comment, if it starts getting long-winded, I might have to jump in and kind of move us forward. But thank you for that. So jumping in straight into this, I think Sean noted that unfortunately, Domingo Vigilo is unable to make it to the meeting today, but Dr. Soderman is going to be kind of leading that presentation. So with that, David, I'm actually going to hand it off to you.
All right, thank you,
I'm going to
Christian. We can move
spotlight
on.
you in a moment, and yeah.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. David Sodeman. I'm the Chief or Manager of the Monitoring and Technical Services Division at the Air Pollution Control District in San Diego County. My division is responsible for doing air quality monitoring throughout San Diego County, including the hydrogen sulfide network down at the border region. So if we can move on to the next slide. Just wanted to next slide. Just wanted to give a fairly short but fairly detailed kind of update on our network. These are the 3 air quality network monitoring sites that we have that are measuring hydrogen sulfide. Going from east to west, we have one monitor located at the site labeled SAY. It stands for San Isidro. That's our San Isidro site. We have another one kind of in the community of Nestor at Barry Elementary School, which is the BES site. And then our third site is in Imperial Beach at the Imperial Beach Civic Center and Fire Station, which we're labeling here on the map as ICF. So these are the 3 locations that we are currently measuring hydrogen sulfide, and these will be the sites that we're talking about with the data on the next following slide. So if we can go on to the next slide. All of our data at those 3 sites are they run continuously, so they're taking minute by minute data. The instrument and data loggers will then calculate an hour average at the end of each clock hour and sends it to our website, which is listed down here kind of on the bottom. There's the actual link. In the red box in the kind of upper right corner there's kind of a stopwatch with a green circle with a check mark in it. If you click on that, that will take you to a table in which it shows the most current data for that particular day. That table is updated every hour, about 5 to 10 minutes after the conclusion of each hour. That data and the time is recorded as Pacific Standard Time, which is different than the local time right now since we're in daylight savings time. So just note that it is updated every hour, but the hours on the table and in this graph here are about an hour behind the hour on your phone or your watch because of daylight standard time versus daylight savings time difference. This graph here, the data that's showed on this particular screenshot is updated every 3 hours. So if you want the most current data, then click on the stopwatch. But this particular slide here, you can look at it defaults to the last 7 days, but you can click on the view last 7 or the select by date buttons and either look at the entire history of our monitoring network for hydrogen sulfide, or if you want to zoom in on just the last couple of days, or what happened last month, or so on and so forth, you can do that. You can also toggle between English and Spanish by clicking on the respective language button that's kind of highlighted there. Currently it's in Spanish, but you can also click on the button English and it would translate this slide or this graph into English. If we go into the next slide. This is kind of the last, this is from March to mid-April. This is the current level. So this was during that heat wave that we were having. This was also during the time when the Pibicila, the pumps that were pumping out of the river were not operating except for the last couple of days. I think they turned on right around the 13th or 14th of April. So you can see prior to that, we saw lots of high levels of hydrogen sulfide. Once they turned it on, the level started dropping, and looking at the data now, they continue to be low as the Tijuana River pumps are pulling out some of that flow. So there's less flow crossing into the United States here. And I should point out the red horizontal bar there is at 30 parts per billion of hydrogen sulfide. That's the level that we then, if it's above that, we send out a hydrogen sulfide advisory notice that will let people know the levels that we're seeing at that time, and some of the potential actions that they can take. And for more information, links back to our website. We go into the next slide. This is kind of now looking at each of those sites. So in San Isidro, the green data there, the green line there is the actual hydrogen sulfide levels. The red line is that 30 parts per billion. The number that's kind of above each of those different spikes are the number of hours from kind of from that nighttime that were above 30. So if we look at that very first one, that's 0, you can see on 3/16, the night of the 3/15 going into the early mornings of 3/16, 0 hours exceeded 30 parts per billion. The night of the 17th going into the early mornings of the 18th, there was 2 hours, and so on and so forth. And you can kind of see here that as you get towards the later part, mid part of April, the number of hours that are exceeding 30 parts per billion at night are decreasing. Let's go to the next slide, and that will this same trend will be more apparent at this particular site at Berry Elementary School, since Berry records our highest numbers. And you can see that during the beginning part, the later part of March and the early part of April, we're seeing lots of hours above that 30 parts per billion. But then in the last few days, or in mid-April, and this has continued through late April and into mid-May. And I apologize for not updating these slides with more current data. They drop down, and so we're seeing fewer and fewer hours, and we really believe this is due to there's less transboundary flow at this time. And we'll go on to our next slide at Imperial, and you can kind of see the same type of situation here, that in mid to late March and early April, we're seeing multiple hours above 30 on quite a few days, with the last kind of 3 days here on the graph, and also is continuing on through late April and early May, that are not shown on this graph. The number of hours are less and less. And if we go on to the next slide, this kind of shows, in this case, this is the Berry Elementary School, and kind of like showing that kind of whole kind of a bigger slide from beginning part of March through mid-April. The kind of what we kind of summarized before is that a lot of this is tied to that flow. And so we got the orange there, that's the hydrogen sulfide levels, and I think that's either blue or black line, that is the transboundary flow. And you can see that it's fairly consistent in March and early part of April, and then you can see when those PVC pumps turned on, you can see that the flow starting to drop. There is that rain event, I think, on the 13th there, which is why it kind of spikes back up. But then it was a fairly small rain event, so the flows then drop back down. And you can see that corresponds to, as you're decreasing the amount of flow, the hydrogen sulfide levels that we see at Bailey Elementary School are decreasing as well. Next slide, please. Some links. And I can drop some of these links, which I see that Jazz is already doing that. So thank you for some of the information on the slide. So the first dot point, the Tijuana River Valley, that first link there, that goes to our website that talks in whole about the whole Tijuana River Valley, and not just the data, but it also talks about enforcement. It also has links to our air purifier program, public health infrastructure, odor investigations, and so on and so forth. The next one, the H2S advisory, that is when there's an advisory, we post that information there. What the current levels are, what are some of the actions that you can do to help mitigate the odor smells. Most of the information I showed today on these slides is on the air quality monitoring link that takes to that dashboard. And then the community hydrogen sulfide guidance, there's a link there that talks about kind of at what to expect at different levels. So if it's less than 5 parts per million, what does that mean in terms of what you guys would expect? What kind of actions that APCD would be taking? And then so we've broken that up in the different categories, which I think we'll talk about in a future slide. And then there's also, if you want to receive our any type of communication that we send out regarding the Tijuana River Valley, most of most of the communication that we've been sending out has to do with the advisories that we send out, but we also, if we're expecting prolonged absence or prolonged instrument downtime, we send out to our listserv information regarding that a particular instrument is going to be down for a period of time. And that's at that last link down there below. So that's all for the links. Now, if we go on to the next slide, we can talk about kind of the, what is that guidance document? Here's where we kind of talked about there's less than 5 parts per million, what to expect. In this case, most people will not smell or experience odor-related symptoms. And so there's really, at this point, there's no recommendations, for any actions to take. In the yellow category, which is between 5 and 30 parts per million, some sensitive groups may smell the odor, may experience some odor-related symptoms such as headaches, respiratory discomfort, etc. And the recommendations are at that point, to try to limit outdoor activities if you smell odors that are bothersome. And so if we go on to the next slide, we get into the orange level, which is greater than 30 parts per billion. In this case, we're expecting, based on the guidance that we've seen from public health agencies, is that most people would experience smells, would be able to smell the odor and or experience having odor-related symptoms. And at this time, we would be issuing an odor advisory to inform the public. And then there's the recommendations there of what to do. If the levels are above a certain point, which we're updating that level from 200 to 510, we would then be in communication with our public health agencies at the local, the state, and the federal level to determine, is there any additional information or communication or guidance that needs to be sent out for those levels at that point. And then the purple level is what would happen if the levels have reached 27,000 parts per billion. And that would be, what we would obviously be continuing to have, increased communication with our public health agencies. The kind of what to expect is that you're probably going to be now experiencing some serious and lasting adverse health effects. And the recommendations would then be coming from kind of the Alert San Diego first responders on that. I would like to point out that this guidance document was developed in collaboration. I think if we go on to the next slide, I think it might list. Yeah, so this guidance document was developed in collaboration with all these, with the county public health, the environmental health and quality department, the California Public Health, the California Air Resources Board, the United States Environmental Protection Agencies, and the CDC branch of the Agency of Toxic Substance and Disease Registry. So all these kind of public health agencies got together with us. We talked about the different levels. We kind of come up with this guidance document. So when the levels hit above a certain level, we then get together and start having a multi-agency coordination. And so it's a lot of those public agencies that I just mentioned that help develop that guidance document. But we also are pulling in like the International Boundary and Water Commission to determine, if they have any additional information that would be useful. Is there a pipe burst? Is this, projects having to be shut down because of construction or so on and so forth? And potentially then issuing additional guidance or information and sending out either advisories or just increased communication to the public and for information purposes. And I don't remember if there's another slide or not.
I think that might be it, David.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So I do
yep.
want,
Okay.
let me go back to this slide. And I think we do have time to see if folks have any questions. If folks want to add questions either in the chat or if I think we could also take some raised hands. But I'm looking at the chat. I think there are some questions. I think just on the links. I think Jess, thank you for resharing some of those links. But yeah, I think those links were included. I know there was a question about the presentation being available. That presentation will be available as well. But if folks have any issues with those links, let us know, and then we can kind of resend those as well. But do you want to see if folks have any questions? We can take raised hands or anything in the chat as well. And we'll give folks a couple minutes before we move on. And Shalom, I see you on camera. I'm not sure if you wanted to add anything. No? Okay, thank you. Just wanted to check. So looking at our chat, not seeing anything. But David, I think you're going to be sticking around. I know we'll be the next presentations I think are going to be related. So David will still be online. So if there are any questions that kind of come back on the topic that David just presented, I think definitely add in the chat. And David, I think we can handle those in the chat. If not, at the very end in the public comment period of our meeting.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you, David. So with that, we're actually going to hand it over to Adriana Eugenia Rodriguez, who's going to give us an update on minute 328 MOU and then minute 333 implementation. So Adriana, I believe you're online.
Good morning. My name is Adriana Rodriguez. I'm the chief of the project of the engineering and topics related to binational agreements. And what I would like to talk about the law on 333. Please, let's move on. Next. No, the one before. Thank you. After many meetings as a result of these dirty waters in Tijuana, EPA and Econagua and the development bank, the North Development Bank, we decided what projects in Mexico and the United States could help us to deal with this problem. After many meetings, we identified several projects, and in July of 2022, on the 1st of July, we developed a declaration of intent where we could establish these projects to avoid these transboundary issues of flow of water. And to clarify this intention, on the July 19th, we actually had The investment in these projects, it was $474 million, and it was an approximate amount. And the this particular act was signed in July of 2022, and then the United States would actually contribute 78%, and Mexico would contribute. Can we go to the next slide? Oh, thank you. And these projects that were identified, what you can see in this slide, the United States EPA actually conducted a study where they provided different options, and they decided that the best option was actually to increase, whether it was these cubic meters with regard to the treatment of the water. And in Mexico, we identified 16 actions that were going to be taking place. And generally, these are the rehabilitation of these pumps and the treatment plants, and to actually better those treatment plants in San Antonio de los Buenos. Some of these projects have been completed and others are still in progress. Please, next slide. These particular projects that have been completed was the pumping plant and Los Laureles, number one. These two plants have an investment of 157 pesos, and PBC, the section Mexican of the limitations of waters, are still operating this plant to actually um, to rehabilitate these areas that have been seeping through. And these resources in this on the Mexican side, they have actually continued with the maintenance of this area. And there was also a rehabilitation that was completed, and this project was completed through a project what that Conagua and EPA has done in conjunction, where EPA with the Bank of the Development, they contribute to these projects. And this particular these funds are specifically designated for the binational effort. And there was a development that was constructed that's new, and SEDENAC developed it with regard to the different projects in Tijuana, and it's now operating. And some of the projects with regard to this law and the rehabilitation in San Antonio de los Buenos, and actually a new plant was developed, and this was 776 million pesos. And you can operate this, and this actual plant has been operating in with regard to the Department of Defense, and 124 million pesos have been invested thus far by Mexico. Currently, we're rehabilitating the line of gravity, and this is costing 142 million pesos. And we're thinking that it'll be completed this year in July, and it's currently under construction. And another project that's of great importance for EPA was insisting that it be developed is a system of detour. And what this consists of is to take these waters out of the Tijuana River and to send it through a different waterway This is going to be constructed in 3 stages. Currently, we're under stage 1, which has cost us 229 million pesos. In September, we're looking at the second stage, and we're still looking for the resources for the third stage. And with regard to the pumping plant, this rehabilitation, we're doing the rehabilitation plant number 1. And this rehabilitation is being realized with in conjunction with EPA, with the bank, the development bank, and what is still remaining will be contributed by the state of California, of Baja California. And this will be done in May, and we're looking at 18 months of progress, or that it will take those 18 months. And with regard to the length of the Tijuana River, this is a project that these are residual water flow. These projects have been identified in 3 components, which was identified by the government of Mexico and Baja California and the state of Baja California. And these components were going to be constructed with the resources from the DIF. And one of the components was of great urgency to begin rehabilitating these. And these resources were not available at the time. So these wastewater discharges were what we wanted to begin enacting. Of the different projects that were identified, these projects will be constructed with federal resources, but we hadn't received those resources. And it's because of that, the EPA director spoke with the secretary of Semarnat to see in what manner could this be actually speeded up. And what happened was that there was a memorandum of understanding between the United States and Mexico, and we wanted to see in what order this was going to be constructed with regard to the projects that have been pending. And these additional, also, there were projects that had not been identified in the previous acts. The memorandum was signed on July 24th, and these were the actions that were stated, that was in agreement. And this was a series of actions that had been established that had to be completed in the same year, where the memorandum was actually signed. And we thank God we actually completed all of these actions. And these are some of the actions that were identified in the memorandum of understanding. And we have to review with regard to the plant of San Antonio de los Buenos, if it's going to be needing an expansion to retain the wastewater, or this wastewater flow, or if it will be generated through the desalinization plant in Rosarito. And we had to construct infrastructure to detain the sediment, and we have to construct the plant in Tecolote. And what we will do is we will continue with the sediment and solid waste collection projects, and there will be a chronology of events, and we'll have to balance what kind of impact, for instance, the desalinization plant will impact with regard to the wastewater. And of these projects, or these actions, if you will, and we have to create a group to tend to these actions. And so these actions we have already reviewed. Excuse me. These actions will continue the memorandum of understanding if it's going to require the expansion of San Antonio, the plant in San Antonio de los Buenos. So this binational flow monitoring system and what we need to do is an analysis of the balance of this wastewater that will be developed of and what we intend to develop is the following slide, please. The next. And after this MOU on December 15th of 2025, the the act or the task for the working group was signed. 2A, we already have we have a report that will be actually emitted or issued to the media. And we also determined that it's possible that it may not require the submarine, that it may not need this increase in this particular plant. And the state government of Baja California will begin with the construction with Tecolote de la Gloria. And these are the actions that is included in the MOU that were not assigned to the task force or the working group. And we are also paying attention to this. We get together every month so that we can be on task. And that would be it on my part. Thank you, Adriana. We have a minute for questions. Hello, Adriana. I'm an academic. I am a professor at COLEF, and part of what I participate in various committees. A couple years ago, I am in the head of the committee for for the reduction of um, the air quality, and not only with regard to the water. I'm also involved in many of the organizations locally, and the work that I'm been assigned to is exactly collect these data points with regard to these wastewater flows on a domestic level, whether it's agricultural or industrial, and that's what we're doing since 2022. And this was sent to San Antonio de los Buenos, and it's up it's operating, and it was sent with regard to the accumulation of all these years in the coast. And I am surprised with all of these rehabilitation efforts have been done where the locals are not really aware of what's been going on, and we're working that, and we have no idea that these has there has been resolution to these efforts. I would like to get your um, email so that I'm away with what's being done. Uh, thank you, Adriana. I don't know if you have a response. I have the email, Gabriela. If you can take that from the chat, it's it's available. Adriana, I don't know. There has been a great deal of work to obtain the resources so that we can complete these work projects. And we are completely committed to the United States. And this is a problem that has decades of issues that have been um, obviously in a these these issues have remained pending, and there hasn't been action realized. And in this year, we're going to rehabilitate these plants in Laureles and Matadero, and we're looking at the east and the ones on the Carranza effort. It's been a great deal of work, and we've been trying to complete these tasks. And I appreciate the 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 recognition, not only the recognition for this work. Thank you, Adriana. And with Gabriela, it's important to have this information. And I'm grateful that you're providing this information and this update of the efforts that have been made. Are there any other questions that anyone may have? We'll move ahead.
Comments for Adriana. Adriana, I think we'll stay on for a little bit longer. We have one more presentation, and then we're moving towards the end of our meeting today. But if folks do have questions, we have our email address on screen as well, and then they'll be on here for the rest of our meeting. So I'm looking at our chat, not seeing any raised hands either. But Adriana, thank you so much again for the presentation. So we'll move forward. So for this next presentation, it's a little bit of an update on the emissions inventory. So we're going to have Martin and Lee give us that update. So Martin, te lo paso.
¿Qué tal? Muchas gracias, Cristian, por el espacio. De
Thank
manera muy
you,
breve,
Christian.
platicarles qué es lo que estamos
Briefly, what
haciendo
I would like to
en la
update you
actualidad
with
aquí en el gobierno del
what we're
estado de Baja
doing
California.
in the government of the state of
Recientemente
Baja
hubo
California,
cambios en la
and
titularidad
recently
y
there were
tomó posesión del
changes,
cargo la maestra Norma Elvia Martínez
and
Santos.
Maestra
Tomamos
Normalina
parte de esta
Santos has
secretaría
taken
con muy poco
the
tiempo, ya lo que
leadership
nos queda de
with
la
very little
administración
time.
estatal.
With
Tenemos muy
regard to
poco
the
tiempo para
state
poder
government, we have
continuar con la
very little
ejecución e implementación
time
de
to
políticas públicas y
continue and
que se vean
complete
los
these
resultados.
efforts
Sin
so
embargo,
that you
eso no
can
nos
see the
desanima, al contrario,
results.
nos alienta a
And this
redoblar los
is something
esfuerzos
that is helping
y
us
buscar
to get
mecanismos que
this
nos permitan
completed
realmente
and
generar una diferencia.
generate a
Entonces,
difference.
dentro de
And
los principales acercamientos que hemos tenido con
to
la sociedad civil
with
organizada,
regard
nos han
to
externado la
society in
preocupación respecto a
general,
la calidad de aire,
with regard
principalmente en lo que
to
son los
air
municipios de
quality,
Mexicali, que es la
with
capital de nuestro
regard
estado,
to
y de
the
Tijuana.
municipality of
En específico, Mexicali es la que
Mexicali
más
and
presenta
Tijuana.
con
And
altas
Mexicali,
concentraciones
we see
respecto al
greater
PM10, y es
concentrations
algo que
of
hasta la fecha
PM10.
seguimos padeciendo.
And
Y el
we're
objetivo
still
es
working on this. And our
redoblar
objective
esfuerzos
currently is
y
to
enfocar
duplicate and
estrategias
actually to
específicas
double
que nos
our
permitan
efforts
realmente
so
mitigar
that
esta
we can
afectación al cambio
try to
climático, es decir,
mitigate
a lo mejor fortalecer
this
la regulación
climate
al
change
sector
and
productivo, en este caso a las empresas
fortify
grandes, a las fábricas que
these,
generan
for
demasiadas
instance, the
emisiones, ¿no?
industries of
Hace poco se dio el conocimiento de
the
esta nueva
industrial industries,
planta de la Comisión Federal
the
de Electricidad, y esto ha
plants,
generado una pequeña inconformidad en la
electricity,
ciudadanía
and
respecto
it
a
has
que pues
been
eso va
a
a
bit
agravar la
uncomfortable
contaminación a la calidad
for
de
the
aire en Mexicali.
citizenry.
Entonces, haciendo un análisis y tomando en
With
cuenta todo
regard to the
lo
analysis
que nos
that
han
we need
compartido
to
la ciudadanía, es
undertake
que
with
vemos que
regard to
tenemos un
the
inventario total de
citizenry,
emisiones que fue
and we
actualizado en el
see
año
the
2014
emissions that this
y un
was
inventario de gases de efecto
conducted in
invernadero que data del 2005.
2014
Entonces,
with greenhouse gases
creo que en
as well.
2019 hubo uno, pero no
And
se le
there
dio
was
tanta
in
difusión o fue
2019
algo
was
muy
also a
específico.
report
Sin
that was
embargo, de manera
generated,
pública y de
but was
manera
not
a nivel
specific.
Estado, el último data
And
de 2005. Entonces,
with regard
una de las
to
principales
the
tareas que nos
state
encomendó la
effort,
secretaria es
and
ir hacia la
the
actualización de este
secretary
inventario,
has
que va también de la
basically
mano con la actualización
given
del
us
ProAire, que es
the
nuestro programa de
task
aire, que
of
también está
the
ya
air
por vencer
quality
precisamente en
control,
2027. Entonces,
or two.
tenemos
This is for
mucho trabajo por
2027 that
delante.
we have a great deal
También
of work to
recientemente
complete.
tuvimos
And
una reunión,
recently
hubo una
we
sesión
had
de comisión del
a
Congreso
meeting
local donde los
with a
diputados
commissions where a local
presentaron una
Congress
iniciativa que se
presented
discutió,
an
se
initiative
analizó
that
y se
was
votó para definir
analyzed
la
and was
periodicidad de la
voted
actualización del inventario.
on
Anteriormente quedaba
beforehand.
a criterio de la propia Secretaría
With
definir
regard to
cada
the
cuánto se iba
secretary, it was
a actualizar
basically
este
her
inventario. Sin
decision.
embargo, eso
Um,
dejaba mucha ambigüedad y mucha
and this was
incertidumbre, ¿no?
um,
Entonces,
actually,
pues
it gave
caía
way to a
en
great
el
deal
supuesto
of
de que a lo mejor
uncertainty
y
and
nadie lo hacía, ¿no?
ambiguity, and
Y
no one
pasaba el
really
tiempo y eso no nos
took
permitía
to
fortalecer
the
una
task
política pública
of
para mitigar la
strengthening
contaminación
this
al aire.
effort with
Entonces, se
regard to
determinó
the
entre sociedad civil
contamination in
organizada,
the air that
diputados y
existed.
autoridades
So
en que
most of
hagamos
these
una
authority
periodicidad
figures,
la
we
actualización
needed
cada 3 años.
to conduct
Entonces,
this
se
report
votó a
every
favor.
3 years, and this
Fue
was voted
un gran
on.
logro tener ya una
And this was a
certeza jurídica,
major
tener una
effort.
certeza en papel
And we
donde
now
obliga a
have
las
something on
autoridades a
paper
hacer esta
where the
actualización, porque había
authorities
la
are
discusión entre si
now
lo dejamos en un
obligated to
parámetro de
conduct
3
this
a
in
5
terms
años,
of
pero creo que eso
completion
no
of
nos permite
efforts of
realmente hacer una
projects,
medición
to
y
actually
comparar
have
de
mitigation
manera más
efforts
precisa
in
cómo
place
está evolucionando el
and
aire, ¿no?
precise
Entonces,
how this air
fue ahí que
quality
hemos
is
tenido
being
pláticas también
managed.
con
And we
diferentes
also had
instituciones académicas
conversations
para
with
ver
the
la
academic
mejor opción para
institution,
realizar
what
esta actualización del
options
inventario.
were
Les
available,
comparto que es
what
un hecho que
better
vamos a
options were
trabajar
available.
ya en
And
los próximos
we're
meses
now
para
going to be
iniciar
working
con esta
in the
actualización.
following
Más o menos
months.
nos va a tomar unos 9 meses
We're thinking that
la
it's going to
ejecución
take about 9 months,
de esta actualización y
this
prevemos también que
updates,
sea un
and we
costo menor de los
foresee
3 millones de
a
pesos. Entonces, eso nos
under
permite
3
también que sea
million
un proceso
pesos
administrativo
that
más
we
rápido,
can actually
y que, pues
generate
vaya, tengamos para
the
finales de año
completion.
un
And we're
estudio
hoping
real
that
que nos
by the end of
permita
the year, we
fortalecer
have
estas
a
políticas
study
públicas.
that
Entonces,
we can
ahorita,
invigorate these
Anneli, la jefa de Departamento de
public
Calidad Aérea, nos va
policy
a explicar de
efforts. And
manera más
Anali is
específica el
going to
contenido
be
de esta
explaining to
actualización que se va a
us
realizar.
the specifics of the efforts that are going to be made.
Hola, entonces para dar seguimiento y pues
With
también
regard
retomarlo
to
un
the
poco de lo que
follow-up,
nos comentaba el director de gestión, pues que
what
este
the
año el
director has
objetivo de
talked
esta
about
secretaría
this
es
year,
la
the
actualización del
objective
inventario de emisiones a la
is to
atmósfera.
take
En ese sentido ya se ha
inventory
tenido
of the
bastantes avances en
atmospheric
cuanto a
air
la gestión
quality,
de recursos económicos
and with
y también
regard to
en los
the
acercamientos con los
resources
posibles
that are available
proveedores
financially
especializados
and the
en el área, ¿no? Para
providers that are
desarrollar
specialized in
los
these
estudios
areas
técnicos
to
correspondientes.
these
Esta
technical
actualización del
studies.
inventario estará integrada
And this
por tres
inventory will
componentes
be
principales: el
integrated
inventario
in
estatal de
three
emisiones
components
de
on a
emisiones de
state
contaminantes
level,
criterio, el inventario
and
estatal de emisiones de gases y
the
compuestos de
emissions
efecto
of
invernadero y también
greenhouse
un estudio de
gas
composición química
and
de material
the
particulado
chemical
PM10 en el
composition
municipio de
of
Mexicali, ¿no?
the
En
particulates.
cuanto al inventario de contaminantes
With
criterio,
regard
se va
to
a considerar
the
4 categorías
report on
principales de emisión,
contaminants,
que son las
there would
fuentes
be four
fijas, las
categories:
fuentes móviles,
the
fuentes de área
mobile
y fuentes naturales, ¿no?
areas and
Las
natural as well as
metodologías que se
air.
estarán
And the
utilizando se van a
methodologies,
ajustar precisamente con las guías y
and we
alineamientos
will continue with the
que
guides
publica la
that have
Secretaría de Medio
already
Ambiente
been
y Recursos Naturales, la
established.
semana, así como también los de la Agencia de Protección al Ambiente de Estados
And
Unidos,
the
que es la EPA.
EPA, what the
Y en
EPA
cuanto a los
has
contaminantes
also
que se quieren
provided as
considerar
guidance.
en este inventario va a ser el material
And this
particulado,
inventory
tanto el
will be
PM2.5
particulate
como el
matter,
PM10, el monóxido de
PM10,
carbono, compuestos
and
orgánicos
carbon
volátiles, dióxido de
monoxide,
azufre, y el amoníaco, ¿no?
the
En cuanto
sulfuric,
al otro inventario de
the
compuestos y
hydrogen
gases de efecto
sulfide,
invernadero se va a
and
desarrollar bajo
the
5
gas
sectores
greenhouse gases
principales,
will be in several
de acuerdo al
sectors, or
IPCC,
these
que
will
es la
be primary
energía, procesos
sectors:
industriales
energy,
y uso de productos,
industrial process,
agricultura, uso de tierra
products,
y cambio de uso
agriculture,
de
and
tierra o
the
suelo
use of
y
land,
residuos, ¿no?
and
Dentro de este inventario
residuals,
se van a
wastewater
contemplar tanto
residuals.
contaminantes que es
And
el
these
dióxido de carbono,
contaminants,
el metano,
dioxide,
óxido
carbon
nitroso,
dioxide,
también se incluyen los compuestos fluorados y
and
lo
the
que viene siendo
fluoride.
el carbono negro, ¿no? Entonces, este inventario va a contemplar
And
un
this
periodo o
inventory
se
will
pretende que
be
contemple un
taking
periodo de 10
place
años entre
of 10
2015 y
years
2025, y el de
between
contaminantes criterio va a ser año base
2025.
2024, ¿no? Que son los
And this
documentos
was,
más
these are the
recientes y
documents
más
that we have
complejos
from
que se tienen.
2024, and
Y
2025.
también el último componente, que es el
And the
estudio
last
de
component
composición química de
is
material
the
particulado
study
PM10,
of
porque el PM10 pues, representa uno
particulate
de los
matter, the
contaminantes criterio que con
chemical
mayor frecuencia
components of it.
sobrepasa los límites
And
permitidos
what
establecidos en la normatividad
when it
mexicana, ¿no?
actually goes
Por lo que se está
above
dando
the limits
prioridad
that
al
are
análisis de este
permitted.
componente,
And we're
pues
going
también
to
con el
analyze this
objetivo
component
de identificar su
and
origen y
to
también sus
identify the
principales
origins
fuentes que
and what
contribuyan
are the
a
origins
estas partículas.
of these
Este estudio
particulate
va a
matters.
contemplar
And
un análisis
these
por
studies are going to
dos temporadas
contemplate
distintas, tanto una en
different
invierno y otra en verano,
stages in the
considerando que
winter
tanto las
and the
condiciones
summer
meteorológicas y
months.
también las fuentes de emisión puedan variar
And with regard to the
significativamente
meteorology,
entre ambas temporadas, ¿no?
with regard
Ya
to
viendo
these
un poquito
particular
de los
areas
fondos
of
que se van a contemplar o
months,
lo que se ha venido contemplando,
or
pues se
what
está
has been
considerando
contemplated,
primeramente un fondo federal binacional
we're
que
looking
está
at a
enfocado en
binational
apoyar acciones de
financial
aire
fund
limpio en la región fronteriza
with regard
entre
to
Estados Unidos y
quality
México,
air
en el cual se
quality, United
participó
States and
mediante la
Mexico,
presentación de dos
with
proyectos, ¿no?
the
Tanto el inventario de
presentation of
emisiones
two
de
projects,
contaminación
the
de
inventory
contaminantes criterio y
of
también un estudio de
contaminants
la composición química del material
and the
particulado. En
chemical
caso de que dichos
composition.
proyectos pues, no
And
resulten
these
seleccionados,
projects,
también se está
if they are
contemplando
not
la posibilidad de
selected,
gestionar
we're looking at the
sustitución mediante la
possibility of
aplicación de recursos del Fondo
enacting other
Ambiental o el
projects
Fondo
with regard
Estatal
to
correspondiente
the
a nuestro ejercicio fiscal 2026, ¿no? Entonces,
we're
tenemos
looking at
ya
2026
varias
with
opciones
regard to
de
the
fondos para
environmental
pues, poder
impacts
llevar a cabo este
and
inventario.
hoping to
Consideramos que ya
realize
sea a
this
partir
inventory, and we're
de finales de
looking
junio cuando
at
ya se comiencen
finalizing it in July
los inicios, ¿no?
with once we
Igual
complete
para
the initial
agregar,
aspect,
aunado a la
and
actualización del inventario, uno de los retos que presentamos pues
to
son
add
fortalecer
with regard to
el
the
sistema de monitoreo de
inventory
calidad de aire.
was to strengthen the
Actualmente
quality
contamos
of
con
air,
7 estaciones
and we have 7
funcionando en el
stations that are
estado.
currently
Específicamente en Tijuana tenemos 2,
operating. In Tijuana,
en
we have
Mexicali
2.
tenemos
In
3, pero
Mexicali,
además
we have
el
3.
municipio de Mexicali a través de la
And
Dirección de
we
Protección al
have the
Ambiente
municipality,
nos comparte los datos de 2
and we
estaciones
have the
normadas.
data
En
points
Ensenada
also.
tenemos una
In
más.
Ensenada, we have one
Tecate también
more.
tenemos otra.
Tecate, we have
Y se me
another.
pasaba, en Mexicali tenemos una estación
And
móvil que cubre
Mexicali,
la
we have
zona
a
sureste
mobile
del municipio, que
station,
es donde se
which is the
presenta, de hecho,
southeast area
con
that's being
mayor
covered,
frecuencia
which
las
is
altas concentraciones de
where
material
we see the
particulado PM10.
highest
También tenemos en
concentration
Tijuana
of
otra estación que está
particulate
en
matter,
proceso de rehabilitación y esperemos
and
que
we're
en las
looking
próximas
at
semanas
other
ya esté en
areas.
funcionamiento.
We're
Pero
hoping
de la
that
mano de
they can
esto,
be
a través del
operating
Fondo
this
Ambiental, estamos
monitoring,
por adquirir tres,
and we're looking at acquiring
monitores de calidad
3 more
se podrían
monitors,
denominar de bajo costo, pero que son de
and
muy
we're
buena
looking
tecnología,
at
son
a lower
BET-AIR.
cost.
Estas tres queremos focalizarlas en
And what
Tijuana
we want to
primero
do
y
is
ya
focus
veremos
then on
más
Tijuana,
adelante
and we'll
adquirir
see
más
in the future
si
if we can
funcionan
acquire
bien, si
more,
vemos
if they
cómo va
operate
el
well,
análisis de esos datos
with
con las estaciones
regard to the
normadas, pues vamos a
analysis of
ver
those
y
data
fortalecer
points, and we
a
can
Mexicali, ¿no?
strengthen
Entonces,
those
precisamente, como menciono,
monitoring areas in
prevemos
Mexicali. And
destinar
we're
estas tres
looking
monitores de
at
BET-AIR
the
en Tijuana.
future.
Precisamente nos gustaría
We would like
instalar algunos
we
cerca
would like
de
to
la zona del río
install,
Tijuana precisamente para poder medir el
especially
sulfuro de
in
hidrógeno,
the
¿no?
Rio
Entonces también
Tijuana
comparar
zone, to
datos, ¿no?
be able
Desde el
to
lado mexicano
compare
ya de manera más
those data
específica de
points,
ese
and
contaminante, ¿no?
with regard
Sería de
to
manera
the
general
U.S.
lo que
data
les
points as
compartiríamos
well,
por parte
and
de la
we would
Secretaría
be
del Medio
able
Ambiente.
to
Muchas
share
gracias.
that with you. Thank you.
Martín, Ali, vamos a mirar si tenemos preguntas o comentarios.
questions,
So,
commentary.
vamos a mirar si tenemos.
Okay, let's check if we have any questions, any
So, Gabriela,
comments.
miro que tienes la mano levantada.
Gabriela,
Thank
your
you.
hand is up.
Cristian. Martín
Thank
y
you.
Aneli,
Martín and
existe un
Aneli,
inventario, el del
Aneli,
is there an
2005 es solo un
inventory
año.
from 2005? It's just
Ya
1
se
year.
los
1
dije
year.
varias veces,
I already
I've
incluida
told
already
you
Daniela.
shared
several
this
Hay
times,
several
Daniela.
un
times.
inventario de gases de efecto
There's an
invernadero,
inventory
There's
base
an inventory
1990 y
of
tiene
of
proyecciones
gases
hasta el
based
greenhouse
in
2020.
gases,
1990,
and
and it
it's
has
projected
projections up
Ciertamente en
to
el 2019
2020.
se quiso
in
Clearly, in
actualizar
2019.
2019,
eso, pero
We
we wanted
wanted
este
to
to
documento
update
update
this,
it,
but
but
en lo
that
that
que era la Secretaría de
document,
Protección al
it's
Ambiente
there,
deben estar todas las bases
and
de
they should
datos
be all of
con
this
los datos
database
ocupados
with all the data
porque
needed
estuvo a cargo del Colegio de la
because
Frontera Norte. Yo
it was
personalmente
in
estuve
charge of
involucrada.
Colegio de la
Están
Frontera
ahí,
Norte.
es un
I
documento
personally
como de
was involved
200
in the,
páginas.
it's right there. It's
Tienen
a
toda esa
document that's
información.
about 200
Sin
pages.
duda
It
tiene
has
que
all of the
estarse
information,
actualizando,
and you
pero
definitely have to be
vean esa
updating this
información.
information. However, it's
Son archivos
information to
Excel.
be
Hay
used
uno enorme por cada
to
una de las
be
categorías de acuerdo al
studied. There's so
IPCC.
many different categories
Fíjense,
according to what you
yo
need.
entiendo el uso de
And
los factores de defecto
I
del
understand that we're
42 para
using
estar
the
en línea en
AP
lo fronterizo,
defect
pero
factors
en
to be
aquel
in
tiempo,
line
cuando
with the borderline.
desarrollamos
But at that
el
time, when we
Plan
developed
Estatal de Acción ante Cambio Climático,
the
el
climate
INEC,
change
el ahora
report,
INEC, en aquel
INEC,
tiempo INE, el
what
Instituto
now is
Nacional de
called
Ecología,
INEC, back in the time it used to
insistió,
be
casi
INEC,
nos obligó a utilizar
insisted,
los factores de
almost
defecto de la
made us to
metodología
utilize
IPCC
these factors in PCC
1996.
from
Esa
1996.
tal vez fue lo que es
Maybe
urgente que
that's
se
what
cambie por
urgent
el del
to
2006
change,
y que si
to
tienen las
switch it
bases de
for the
datos realmente va a ser
2006 one.
bastante
And if we
menos
have the
engorroso.
basis, that's a little bit
Está
less
ahí, la
complicated to put it
información
that way.
utilícenla
The
porque ahí
information
está,
is right
¿no?
there. The
Yo
data
le
is there.
entregué
It's there for a reason. I handed it over.
Y creo que
And
sin
I
duda
think that
puede
it can
servir de
definitely
paso para
be
lo que
very
quieren hacer.
useful
O tal
for
vez
all the
no,
information that you're
revísenlo.
trying to use, or maybe not, but it's
Otra
worth
cosa,
taking a look at it. One more
estoy
thing.
ahorita dirigiendo una tesis sobre
Right
calidad
now,
del
I'm
aire
doing a thesis about air
precisamente y
quality.
compramos un
As a matter of fact, and we actually
Purple
bought
Air, un monitor PM
a
2.5.
purple air monitor
Lo tuvimos
2.5. We had
verificar más que validar
to have it
con el que
verified. More
está en
than
San
validate,
Isidro.
we had to verify with
Eh,
the ones in San
Está
Isidro.
funcionando bien, solo tiene
And
2
it's
años.
working out
Yo
nicely
creo que,
the last couple
a
of
ver,
years, but
entiendo
I
lo
believe
regulatorio
that
de México,
I
que es un distrito
understand
solo
Mexico's
basado en
regulation,
las
which
normas
is a
oficiales
district
mexicanas,
based
que tiene
only
que ser
on the
un,
Mexican rules, which
un
has to
cierto
be
tipo de monitor.
certain
Me
kind of
alegra que
monitor.
ahorita estén
I'm
considerando
actually
los monitores de
happy.
bajo
I'm
costo.
happy that
Tal
we're
vez
considering the
no
low
va a ser
cost
regulatorio,
monitors.
no podemos
Maybe
hacerlo
it's not
regulatorio
going to
este
be
tiempo,
with regulation.
pero
We
sin
cannot do
duda
it with
nos
regulation.
va a dar mayor
However,
información
it's
de lo
going
que
to
está
give us more
pasando en la
information
ciudad.
about what is going on in the city.
Entonces celebro
It's
eso.
going to give us
Gracias.
more data.
Gracias, Gabriela. Y Martín, Anneli, no sé si tienen algo que responder
Thank you,
a los
Gabriela,
comentarios
Martín, and
de
if you have anything
Gabriela.
if you would like
De
to
manera muy
respond to
breve,
Gabriela.
doctora Gabriela, muchísimas gracias
Just
por
really
sus
briefly,
comentarios.
Gabriela, thank you very much for
Los
your
tomamos en
feedback,
cuenta y claro que
for
sí
your
vamos
comments. We're
a
definitely
revisar
taking them
esa
in
base de
consideration,
datos,
and we're going
pero
to
me gustaría más
review
allá de
that
eso también poder
database.
sentarnos con
But I
usted.
also would like to
¿Qué
be
le
able to sit
parece?
down with
Para de
you.
acuerdo con su
How
expertise,
do you feel about that?
compartir ahora sí que
According to your
comentarios,
experience, to be
sugerencias
able
de
to
cómo podemos
share more
mejorar aquí
feedback,
el trabajo y
any
el análisis,
suggestions
¿no?
of how
Estamos
we can
abiertos de
improve
trabajar de la
this
mano, sobre
analysis that
todo
we're trying
con
to do.
instituciones tan
We are
importantes como
working
el
with a lot
colegio.
of institutions,
Y
very
no sé si
important
Anneli también tenga algo que comentar,
such as
pero por mi
Coleg, and I don't know
parte,
if
con toda la
Anneli has
disposición de
something
poder
else
trabajar de
to
la mano, doctora.
share as well. But I would really, really like the opportunity to spend some time
Y
with you.
Anneli, no sé si tienes algo que agregar. Y si no,
Anneli, I don't know if you have anything else
Solo
to
por mi
add.
parte, pues con respecto a los
Just on my
sensores de bajo costo,
behalf,
pues precisamente como
with
comenta
the low
doctora, es
cost,
el tener
like you
más
were
información, ¿no?
mentioning, it is
Precisamente
having
no
more
podemos,
information, right?
no son regulatorios,
Um,
no están normados,
some of
pero
this
por ejemplo
information is
municipios
not
como Tijuana
regulated,
realmente
but
necesitan una
in
extensión
cities like
más amplia, ¿no?
Tijuana,
Realmente
sometimes they need a
se cuenta
broader
con poca
extension.
información y el tener
There's
una
just a
red de
little bit
monitoreo
information that
más
we
amplia,
have, and
así
having a
como
broader
Mexicali, pues nos
monitoring net,
permitiría
like the
también
one in
conocer cuál
Mexicali,
es la
would also
problemática real
help us to
de estos
understand
municipios,
what
¿no?
are the
Entonces,
issues
gracias
that
por
are
sus
happening in
comentarios.
each one of these cities.
gracias, Anneli.
So thank you very
Por
much.
alusión personal. personal, Christian,
just personally speaking,
No,
uh,
sí, sí.
Christian,
Agregue.
if I
because I
may.
want to mention, sorry, I would like to intervene. Discúlpenme, Julieta y Daisy.
I apologize, Julieta and Daisy, for
Por supuesto, Martín siempre ha
speaking first,
estado
but of course, Martin has always
en la
been
mejor disposición
in the best
y de
disposition,
hecho
always
intentamos cuando
available.
estaba
And as a
José
matter of
Carmelo, que
fact,
debe andar por
when
ahí,
Jose Carmelo
ver
was
si
here, who's
podíamos
probably
activar y hacer
here,
una
and
actualización
we
de ese
wanted to
inventario.
activate and make
Con todo gusto.
an update to this inventory. So yes,
Gracias,
I'll be happy
Gabriela.
to.
Vamos con
Thank you,
Julieta,
Gabriela.
Mariela
Let's go
Rodríguez
with Julieta,
Mesa.
Mariela Rodríguez
Julieta.
Mesa.
Perfecto.
Julieta,
Muchas gracias. Un gusto
thank you very much.
saludarlos a todas y
It's
a
a pleasure
todos.
saying hello
Me
to
presento, ¿no?
everybody. Let
Soy
me
Julieta
introduce
Rodríguez,
myself. I'm Julieta
actualmente
Rodríguez,
subdirectora de programas de
currently
calidad del aire aquí en oficinas centrales
programs
de
or air
Semarnat,
quality in the
o sea,
center,
gobierno federal.
central offices in
Y
the
pues
federal
aunado, ¿no? A todo
government
esto
for
que
federal
están
government
comentando,
and
pues me quiero
working hand in
sumar,
hand with everything that's been mentioned. I
pues
just wanted
precisando el
to
tema de
talk
los
about this
inventarios de
subject
emisiones
about emission inventories
de
or
contaminantes
data that
criterio.
we have
Como bien
on
comentaban
all of
ahorita
this
el
pollution
maestro Martín y la
criteria,
maestra Anneli,
like Martin and
justo esta
Anneli,
actualización del inventario,
professors were mentioning.
pues parte de la
This
necesidad de estar
inventory,
generando
part of the
información
necessity is to
actualizada
continue
para
generating
identificar pues quiénes
updated
son nuestros
information to
actores, ¿no? Y como
identify
gobierno
who
federal,
is participating.
pues
And as a federal
fomentamos en
government,
todo el
we
territorio
try, we're
el que se hagan
pursuing
este tipo de
for the whole
instrumentos y no
territory to
solamente
do
eso,
these
sino que
kind of
somos los encargados
instruments or
por ley
tools.
de
But not only
integrar
that,
la
we are the
información que
ones
se genere a nivel
responsible
nacional. Eso
legally to
incluye
inform, to give all
la
this
información que
information at a
genera el gobierno
national
del estado
level.
de Baja
That
California.
includes the
Y en ese
information that's
sentido, pues
generated in the state of Baja
comentar aquí
California.
en el grupo de
And also
trabajo
wanted to mention
que
here in the
actualmente se
working
tiene
group
acercamiento
that
directo con
currently we
las
are working
autoridades del
closely with
gobierno de
the
Baja California, que
authorities of the
estamos
government of Baja
trabajando de manera
California,
coordinada
where we are
esta
working in
actualización. Y no
coordination
solamente
all
eso,
of these
sino que en
updates.
el caso
And not
específico de
only
la
that, but in
información de
the specific
contaminantes
case of the
criterio,
information of
también tenemos
criteria
mucha
in
información
different
histórica que ustedes pueden consultar directamente en
pollution,
la
there's so
página de
many historic
Semarnat,
information that you can
tanto la
actually
información
find in
nacional
the
como de
website
manera
of Semarnat.
desagregada por cada entidad federativa.
National
Por aquí
information and
les
information that's been
comparto
added
en
by
el chat
different
el
agencies.
vínculo donde pueden estar
Right here, I'm sharing
visualizando
on
esta
the chat the
información.
link where
Y no
you can see
solamente
this
eso, sino
information.
comentarles
And
que
not
la
only
última
that, but to
actualización que
mention
se
that the
tiene del
last update
inventario
that's been done of this
nacional de
inventory of
emisiones
the
es
national
año base
inventory of
2020.
emissions
¿Vale?
is
Entonces, para
based in
que lo
2020.
consideren, esta
So for you to
información
take
es
it
la
in
última que el
consideration,
país ha
this
generado en
information
materia
is
de
the last one
contaminantes
that was
criterio y
updated when it comes
actualmente
to
se está
criteria
trabajando en
in
coordinación
different
con todos los gobiernos de las
pollution,
entidades
and we're also
federativas
working with
el
all of the
inventario
different governments
2023.
at a
Como bien
federal
comentan
level.
ahorita,
And
esta
like you
necesidad
mentioned earlier, this
de
need
especificar una
to
periodicidad de
have
actualización es fundamental.
specific
Nos sumamos
updates
a
is
la iniciativa del
fundamental,
gobierno del
it's
estado de que sea
necessary,
cada
and we
3
are
años por la
working with the
complejidad
initiative
que
of the
se
state
tiene
of
en la generación
government
de esta información. Y
to
pues
be
bueno,
able to
por
have this
parte de oficinas
information. And
centrales,
well, on our
agradecerles
behalf,
la
on central
coordinación que hacen
offices, we appreciate the
para
coordination
presentar
that you
los
do
proyectos y
to
avances que se
present all of
tienen
these projects and all
en
of the
estos
ways that
temas
we are
y
advancing in
pues
this
darles la
subject, in this
certeza de
matter.
que tenemos
And to be
comunicación
certain that we have
muy articulada
communication
con las autoridades del gobierno
very,
estatal.
very
Muchas gracias.
closely with
Gracias,
the
Julieta.
entities of the
Y pienso que
state
vas a agregar
government.
un link que pienso en el chat
Thank you,
también, ¿no?
Julieta, and thank you for
So
adding
ahorita
the link
ahí
on
va a
the
estar
chat.
disponible. Daisy,
We're gonna
we'll
have it
go to
available.
you, I think.
Daisy, go ahead.
Hi, yes. Sorry, I was just gonna ask a clarifying question about one of the last things that Martin said
Yeah.
in the presentation. You said you were looking to acquire hopefully 3 new monitors this year, and I think I missed what they would be monitoring for. Are those particulate matter monitors?
Yes, I can answer that question. These monitors really they come in packages. One can choose how many pollutants you're going to choose, and it's going to depend how much it is. What we are interested is to have full stations that can measure the 6 criteria that here in the Mexican norm is indicated. However, we are interested in knowing that at least one of them will be added for hydrogen and be able to add it in Tijuana and understanding the emissions that are done or created or that are coming from the US side.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, if you allow me, once we acquired this equipment, we would love in this group as well to be able to give you the technical specifications so you can really know what we are working with and know the brands. Thank you. Maybe we can add it in a future agenda and do a similar presentation.
Regarding the update on the administered admissions inventory and some of the updates in process for that. So let's see, and I know that we have added that chat to the some of the national inventory as well. So I want to see if anyone else has any other comments, any other feedback. But if not, then we can move forward with our presentation. So not seeing anything. Looking at my team as well. Not seeing anything in the chat, so I think we can move forward. So we did kind of have this last section really as a wrap up for any other questions, comments that folks had. I know we talked about, we had the presentation starting off with David, Dr. Solomon, talking about some of the admissions inventory, and some of the feedback regarding what's happening with APCD. And then we had the presentation from Konawa with Adriana as well, and now wrapping up with Anali and Martin. But I want to see if folks have any other questions. I think for any of the presenters that we had today, we're happy to take any of those questions now as well. And if not, that can move forward with any other general updates from our team here. So Esperanza, I know that sometimes we'll look at you and see if you have any other updates from EPA. So I believe you're on, but let us know if you have any updates you'd like to share with your team. Okay, so you're on camera and
Hi.
video, so
Yes.
yeah. Hey, Esperanza.
Hi, thank you. Esperanza Perez from EPA Region 9. Just two quick updates. So just noting for everybody that we are continuing to work with Region 9 and OIDA on the Border 2035 framework. So we are still planning on holding public webinars and sharing the framework for public comment later this summer. And additionally, the Border 2025 accomplishments report will also be released around the same time, so later in the summer. And then my colleague Jessica is posting in the chat the listserv for the Border 2025. So if you want to get any updates about the Border 2035 framework or the accomplishments, feel free to sign up at the listserv. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Esperanza. And I do want to see if any other folks from any of the other agencies, partner agencies are on, have any updates, anything that you'd like to share, anything that you're working on that you think would be relevant and I think helpful for other folks to know about. So seeing if anyone else has any other contributions as well. And then I'll make the also note that if there are any other updates like that or things that come up that you think would be helpful for us to share with this group as a whole, do forward it to our team, to the Current and West team, myself, Domingo, Martin, or Lee, and we'll be happy to share that across. I think the folks that have been participating in these meetings as well. So that opportunity is also there for folks. And then Jazz from our team just added email address as well, so you can email that directly, and that will actually send it to our team. So we hold this moment, I think, for a public comment. Let's see if anyone has anything to add as we're wrapping up today's meeting. So if you do have a public comment, please raise your hand. We're happy to take any comments now. Not seeing any raised hands. So with that actually takes us to the end of our meeting today. We will be sending a presentation. I know that was something that was requested earlier on. And then we'll also include some of the information and links that were included and shared via the meeting today as well. Our team will send a calendar invite for the upcoming meeting as well. So folks can have that already scheduled on your calendars. But again, if folks have any other questions, any things that you'd like to share, please email it to that email address that's in the chat right now. It's sdtjtaskforce@currentsandwest.com. And then we're more than happy to follow up with you, sharing any information across the folks who participated today. But with that, I think we can wrap up. Martin, Nelly, Shalom, I don't know if you have any closing remarks, I think, for us today. So, Martin, anything to share, Nelly?
Well, just thanks for this space of work. I think that we need to meet more often. And next time I'm gonna try to do it in person. Hopefully I can be in San Diego. But just saying again from a perspective from the environmental agency in the state of Baja California, we look forward to continue working with you and to continue collaboration with any academic institutions, with federal government, anybody and everybody that has interest in this. Annalie, anything else? Just to thank everybody that presented today, Dr. David and Dr. Adriana Rodriguez, thank you for your feedback. And as many of you have mentioned already, these roundtables are precisely to be able to inform each other and to have all of this information that is not always public in all platforms, but right here we can definitely communicate and learn what we have to share from the team in the US and in Mexico. So one more time, appreciating your support and your availability.
And they might have stepped away for a moment. But with that, if not, Shalom, I'll give you a last call. If not, then I'll end up closing right now. Okay, we'll move with closing. That takes us to the end of our meeting today. Thank you, everyone. Muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Agradecemos que que hayan podido participar. Agradecemos los comentarios, las preguntas, las adiciones que dieron en el chat también. Pero los veremos tenemos la siguiente junta va a ser no tengo la fecha en frente de mí, pero les mandamos la información, pero nos vemos pronto. Entonces, agradecemos a todos por estar aquí. Y con eso concluimos nuestra junta. So with that, we wrap up today's meeting. Thank you everyone for being here with us. And que todos tengan un buen día. Everyone have a good day. Thank you all.